Still got 1 minute.
15.
Still got 1 minute.
It is, yeah. You need rest. Don't wake up early.
But you can have cartoons that they're willing to give up sleep.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, he did. He woke up early and talked about it.
Because they tend to go toward the video thing where the girls are social.
Yeah.
Good morning. Please stand, come forward, start singing with me. Come sing a song with me is literally the name of the song, number 346. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the summertime.
Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal, religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and live justly. I want to begin, as always, by welcoming all of you to this space. All of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here today. And this includes those of you who are in the room with us, as well as those who are Zooming with us this morning, as well as those who are live streaming with us. It's great to have all of you. So thanks so much for being here. Let's see. What order do I want to do this in? I think I will make one announcement, and then we'll have our generosity campaign moment, and then we'll welcome our friends on Zoom, and then we'll welcome each other. That feels right. So the one announcement I wanted to make, and you should be able to see this in the Sun newsletter online if you get that. But if you're concerned with the Spokane homelessness crisis, which I think most of us are, the Spokane Alliance is going to be having an important action at our church on May 2nd from 6 to 7 p.m. And we're asking that as many of us as possible be here so that we can make a strong show of support. In 2020, the Alliance organized to win funding for affordable homes by helping pass the HB 1590 housing levy in the Washington legislature. That was a 0.1% local option sales tax with funds dedicated to new housing, and convinced city officials to using that tax authority here. And now what it amounts to $14.5 million has accumulated in a local housing fund, but most of the money has not been spent and is at risk because of a budget shortfall. So the Alliance is going to be here and is bringing in Mayor Lisa Brown and City Council President Betsy Wilkerson and other city leaders to publicly commit to releasing these funds and using them for what they're supposed to be used for. So this is an opportunity to have a strong showing. Again, that you're going to be hearing more about this, but that's May 2nd from 6 to 7 p.m. And if anybody knows the Spokane Alliance, they run a tight ship, so you can guarantee it'll be about an hour of your time. So hopefully you'll join us here. You'll hear this again next week. I will be out of the pulpit next week, so I won't be here. So I wanted to personally ask you to please put this on your calendar and come if you can. Okay. And those of you who are, of course, streaming with us, if you're local, please consider attending as well. And those who are far away, I'm sure you will be with us in spirit, because this is a cause that is impacting people the world over, communities the world over. Okay, now I'm going to invite Lynn forward for update on our generosity campaign.
Welcome to week 3 of our generosity campaign. So this week is religious in our nourishing, liberal, religious home theme. So Todd's going to speak completely about why we want to have a religious home or a religion home, why we even care about religion at all right now. And he's also going to give us a little few words about related to the pledge campaign. But I want to start by saying what an incredibly generous lot of people you are. It's just astounding to me to watch these pledges come in, or I don't get to see them, but Rebecca gives me a list of these names, some I've never heard of before, or even the locations of where you all live. So it's just wonderful to see the people supporting the work that gets done from this church. More importantly than your generosity, though, I would say, is that people are really stepping up to help us plan, because that's what a pledge does. It's not a payment right now necessarily. It's a payment in the future for next year's planning our budget. So that's how we do it. That's how we get to decide what our priorities are going to be and how we want to move forward with whatever funds we have coming in. So thank you to everyone who's made that commitment. No matter how big or how small, every little bit helps. And so far this year, in week 3, we have a commitment to contribute $190,432. So that's wonderful. And we have 71 pledging units who have pledged so far. So there's your update.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Lynn, and thanks to you and the team for all you're doing to help make our generosity campaign exciting and successful. Really appreciate that, and I double your gratitude to everyone who has already made a pledge. We're off to more than a great start, more than halfway towards our goal, so thank you so much. And we still officially have a week to go, but keep in mind that back when this church started, the treasurer actually went around on a bicycle. That was 25 cents a week dues, and they go around on a bicycle and collect them. And Jennifer Calvert just let me know that she just got a new electric bicycle. So, yeah. So let's try to get this wrapped up this week, or I'm sending Jennifer your way. I love the theme this year, something you hear each week, nourishing liberal religious home. And we've been focusing each week, the speaker has been focusing on one word. I'm going to actually give a sermon in a bit called Why Religion? And I know this is a difficult word for many, and I'll talk about why I use it in a little bit. But primarily, I consider ours a religion because of the feelings it incites in me. The feelings of commitment and devotion and purpose, which I think ultimately is what a religion is. And that's why, Peggy and I have always tried to be strong financial contributors to the church. And even though last year I took a pretty big financial cut because I think things finally caught up with the church. We maintained our pledge, and we're doing so again this year because we want to support that which gives our lives so much purpose and meaning, not only as the minister, but as members of this congregation, as a part of something so historically profound that all of us should be honored to sit in this space, which I certainly am. And because of the historic moment we're in right now and the fact that we've risen to the occasion, and mostly because the world really needs liberal religion right now. It is a divided world, and our religion is about unifying the world and unifying our communities. So it is the message that is needed in this moment, and I think it's the only solution, and we are part of it. So it is vital that our congregation and the waning number of congregations like ours not only survives, but goes on to thrive. And we are helping to make that happen. So, I thank everyone who has already made a pledge and continues to support this congregation. I thank those in advance who I know will also pledge in the coming week, hopefully. And even those of you who maybe aren't members of our congregation. By the way, I'm going to back up just a minute before I say this, because to me it is so wonderful that we have not only our local members able to stream from home, those who need to, and in previous years when people couldn't come to church, they just missed our services, as well as the fact that we have people from sometimes all over the world, but certainly all over the countries, as I like to say, Canada and the U.S. And years ago, when I think the year I came, a few of us had this vision of transcending the limitations of our sanctuary walls. Dave and Millie Roberts were big believers and contributors in the very technology that we're using today. Wayne Atwood, who passed away just a few months ago, was also a contributor. Dan Egret contributed so that we could make this happen. We never knew that COVID was coming and was going to shift how we shift some of our church-going habits to begin with, but we were already set up and ready for COVID, and it has escalated our ability to be a congregation of people from all over the countries. And I so appreciate you being part of this and being part of our church and continuing to contribute. And I know we also get people who are not members but are visitors that like to stream or watch our recorded services online. And even if you are not wanting to pledge or commit financially, if you're able to give a one-time gift of support, that is also much appreciated. We want to try to reach our goal and be able to do everything that we need to do as a church in the coming year. And all of the love and support we get from all of you everywhere is a big part of that. So again, I humbly thank you, and I am humbled to be the minister occupying this pulpit and humbled to be a member of this incredibly special congregation. Okay, with that said, good time to welcome our friends on Zoom. And Stephen Palmer, I understand you are the host today. How's it going?
It's going very well, Todd. Actually, I think we have about 16 or 17 people and at least one cat. There may be 2 cats, but I don't know if we have any new folks joining us for the first time. We have a lot of the usual suspects that are here every week, but if anybody is new to our group, please speak up and say hi. Sounds like it's just the usual suspects.
Just the usual suspects. Well, we like the usual suspects. And what are some of what are the variety of locations? There's Joyce waving.
Yeah, Joyce is in Port Townsend. We have a lot of folks from Washington, a few from Oregon. Mariah and Nancy are from Oregon, and we have the center of the United States represented with Reverend Jack Reich, and Bruce Knotts is in New York City. I'm up here in Connecticut, and in a couple of weeks I'll be greeting you from Perugia, Italy.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thanks for...
So that'll be 9, you'll cover at least 9 time zones.
Wow. Well, we appreciate you making us, helping to make us an international congregation here. So thanks so much again to all of you for your support, and it's so wonderful to have you. So with that said, let's take a couple of minutes here to greet one another this morning. Okay, I hope you can continue your conversations during our social hour following the service, but let's move on now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
For the opening words, words from Carl Sagan. Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. When we recognize our place in an immensity of light years and in the passage of ages, when we grasp the intricacy, beauty, and subtlety of life, then that soaring feeling, that sense of elation and humility combined, is surely spiritual. So are our emotions in the presence of great art, or music, or literature, or acts of exemplary, selfless courage. The notion that science and spirituality are somehow mutually exclusive does a disservice to both.
Please stand, join me, for I've got Peace Like a River, number 100. We'll do verses 1, 2, 3, and 6. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
Thank you. For those who might be curious, Jennifer was letting me know that Alan wasn't here and that we might not have coffee, which means people would have pulled their pledges and marched out. So he was here. He was here. He's doing double, calm down. He's doing double duty. Jennifer just checked and there's hot coffee in there. So thanks to Saint Alan, saint of the kitchen coffee. So okay, we're now going to excuse me, kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds. And we will begin, as we have been, on behalf of the people of Ukraine and that region of the world, and the people of Israel and the Palestinians who are being impacted by the terrible violence there. And I just have to do a little political commentary here. Doesn't it feel good to see the two divided parties come together and make a decision to finally get something done? I'm talking, of course, about passing a budget to fund Ukraine and Israel and other things. And anyway, it's so rare. It's so rare, and I'm really happy for what this might mean for two parties that have been uncooperative to understand that they need to join together to actually accomplish what it is they're here to accomplish. So thank goodness we can begin supporting particularly people of Ukraine again and their struggle to survive. So let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And even amidst our stewardship campaign or generosity campaign, in which we're raising funding for our own church, we continue to try to meet some of the needs in our own community with a special collection. And this month's special collection is going to go to Lewis and Clark High School Environmental Club. And I'm going to pull out my phone and just talk a little bit about some of the highlights. I know that you'll want to support this. Incidentally, if you do want to support it, please put your contribution in the special collection envelope, or if you're streaming or zooming and want to go online, just note that it's for today's special collection. But just some of the highlights about this environmental club. They're focused on not only active change, but education and discussion in our community on environmental issues. They've been involved with the Spokane River cleanup, collaborating with the school's DECA program to reduce the use of plastics, and the art department to highlight coral bleaching in the ocean. They've worked on state legislation to reduce waste. The RAP Act, which is important and far-reaching ways to reduce plastic. ELSA has also stopped officially recycling within the school, so the club has actually taken it upon themselves to take care of the classroom recycling every week. Now that's commitment. So they're in the process of seeking to get green school certification from the Gonzaga Climate Cup. So I'm sure we're very proud of these young people and inspired by the great work they're doing. So if you are moved to do so, please do support them by giving to our special collection. And we now do gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps to sustain this community and our mission to the larger world, including groups like Lewis and Clark.
Choir is going to be singing the song Second Service in a round. I'm going to sing it by myself today. Love, 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 people, we are made for love. Love each other as yourself, for we are one. Love, 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 people, we are made for love. Love each other as yourself, for we are one.
Thank you so much. All right, well, this morning's story is called Who Loves the Dark? And it's a story about how new experiences just might give you new perspectives. There once was a child who got lost in the woods. As night began to descend, the child became more and more frightened, I'm sure any of us would be frightened too in that situation. But what made this child even more frightened was that he had always been afraid of the dark. He was more afraid of the dark than any of his friends or his siblings. He didn't know why he was more afraid than his friends or siblings. He only knew that when the sun went down, he was always very glad to be inside his brightly lit house. When the sun was all the way down and the only light was just a tiny bit of light from the moon and the stars, the child got so frightened that all he could do was sit down and cry, which he did. Soon he heard a voice say, "What's all that racket?" He looked down and saw a mole squinting up at him. "I'm lost in the woods," he said, "and it's dark, and I'm afraid." "Well," said the mole, "perhaps you could take your noisy crying farther down the path. I hate having to come out of my warm, comfortable, dark hole to tell people to be quiet." Then the child heard another voice. "Go on back to your hole, Mr. Mole. I'll take care of this." The child looked up in the direction that this newer voice seemed to come from, and in the darkness he could see two glowing eyes looking at him. Before he could scream, which was his first impulse, there was a flutter of wings and the creature flew down near him, and he could see that it was an owl who said, "Please excuse Mr. Mole. He hates to come out of his nice dark hole for anything, to be honest." At this, the child burst out crying even harder than before, because as frightened as he was of the dark, having a non-human animal speak to him was beyond his experience and a little frightening in itself. "No need for that crying," said the owl. "If you just give me your address, I can guide you home." With that, the child did indeed stop crying, partly out of relief that someone might be able to lead him home, and partly out of curiosity as to how an owl could locate his home with or without the address. But deciding he had little to lose, the child choked back his tears and replied that he would be very grateful to be guided home, and he gave the owl his address. So this strange pair headed off through the dark forest in what the child hoped was truly the direction of his home. When his fear left him just a little bit, the child looked around, and though the moonlight was dim, he began to notice his surroundings a bit. At one point, he noticed a kind of flower that he had never seen before, and slowed his pace just a little so he could gaze at it. "That," said the owl as they continued walking, "was an evening primrose. Did you know that there are some flowers that bloom only at night? There are moonflowers and night gladiolas too, flowers that you would never see if you never went out at night." After a while, the owl said, as if musing aloud to herself, "And of course, there are animals too, who love night and the darkness. Me, for example, I love the dark. In the daytime, the light hurts my eyes, so that's when I like to go into my tree and sleep." To this, the boy replied, "Well, I like the daytime. I can see to kick a ball. I like the hot sun at the beach. When the dark isn't scary, it's just boring." "Boring, you say?" replied the owl, as she clearly had some opinions to express on the point, but just then there was a fluttering and squeaking around their heads. It took the child just a few seconds to figure out what it was, and he shrieked, "A bat!" And he started flailing his arms to knock the creature away, shrieking the whole time. The shape backed away and, hovering just out of reach, said, "Excuse me, that's just my way of saying hello." "Well, hello to you, Mr. Bat," said the owl. "This child was out here lost in the forest, and I'm helping him find his way home. You're not hurt, are you?" "Well," said the bat, "I'll probably have a bruise on my backside, but I think I'll live." "But you're a bat," said the child, "a creature of darkness. Weren't you trying to drink our blood?" "No," said the bat, "but I've been eating lots of yummy insects who would have been biting you if I hadn't been around. Anyway, I couldn't help overhearing what you said about darkness being boring. If you want to come just a little bit out of your way, I can show you something really exciting." So they traveled through the deepest forest for what seemed like just a few minutes, and then they came out onto a dark beach. "Here we are," said the bat. The child gazed out at the beach, lit very gently by moonlight, and thought, "This is certainly beautiful, even in the dark, but I wouldn't call it exciting." Just then there was movement in the sand, like a little bubble of sand rising up. Then there was another little bubble, and then another. It looked almost as if the beach in the area they were looking at was boiling. And then out of one of those little bubbles of sand popped a rounded shape. "Looks like we got here just at the right time," said the bat. As they watched, more and more shadowy shapes came up out of the sand, and soon the child realized what he was seeing. Lots of baby turtles, hundreds, climbing out of the sand. This was truly exciting. Once each turtle shape pulled itself up out of the sand, it started crawling as fast as its legs could carry it towards the water. "When baby sea turtles hatch," said Owl in a sort of teacherly voice, they need to find their way to the water, and they almost always do this at nighttime, because to find the water they need darkness everywhere else to follow the moon and starlight reflecting off the water. Daytime sunlight is too bright and scattered everywhere. "Oh," said the child. As they turned to leave and head back towards the child's home, Owl spoke again, as if thinking aloud to herself. "You know who else loves the darkness besides all the nighttime plants and animals? The moon and stars love the darkness. That's when they can really shine. Oh, they're there in the daytime as well, hidden behind a wall of light. But when that wall goes down with the sun, the stars and the moon reveal their beauty." After what seemed like a very short time, the child and Owl left the forest and walked down a street that the child recognized as his own. He was very happy and relieved, but also a little sad to say goodbye to Owl, to whom he gave a very gentle hug and a thank you. He went into his home, and being extremely tired, got ready for bed right away. Before he went to bed, as a matter of habit, he bent down to turn on the nightlight that he always kept glowing through the night to keep the dark at bay. But before his fingers touched the switch of the nightlight, he smiled and pulled his hand away. He got into his bed, pulling up the covers, and let the comforting arms of the darkness soothe him to sleep.
For this morning's meditation, words from Mahatma Gandhi. Prayer is not asking. It is a longing of the soul. It is daily admission of one's weakness. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart.
Darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, 'neath the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs that voices never share. And no one dare disturb the sound of silence. Fool, said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell and echoed in the wells of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning to the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whispered in the sounds of silence.
Thank you so much. Wow. I tell you, between that story about the nighty-night creatures, our meditation, and then that soothing song, I'm ready for a nap. So hopefully this exciting sermon on religion will wake you up. So religion is a big word that encompasses so many different definitions that it is almost meaningless to use. And it has so much negative baggage that for many of us it is distasteful to even utter. Nevertheless, it is still the word that I prefer to use to describe my Unitarian beliefs and community. I'll explain why, but before doing so, allow me to share a conversation that I had with John Calvin earlier this week. Yes, I'm talking about the 16th century Protestant reformer and theologian who is considered the founder of the Presbyterian sect of Christianity. And I did not communicate with him during a seance, through a medium, or by sacrificing a chicken to conjure him from the eternal fires of hell that he so staunchly believed in, which I'm certain is where he'd reside if I did believe in such a place. I spoke with him rather through an AI app called Hello History, in which various AIs have been programmed with, or I should say taught really, with the writings of and about dozens of historical and a few fictional characters. So far, I've spoken with Aristotle, George Washington, George Orwell, Martin Luther King Jr., Jane Austen, Thomas Jefferson, Albert Einstein, and Jesus Christ. And my conversations with Jesus has so far been the most boring. I found myself too dumb to discuss much with Albert Einstein. He really seemed to be stepping off his pedestal to be kind to me. Apart from Jesus, who is more of a caricature, however, the conversations have gone very much as I imagined talking with these personages would go if I were truly speaking with them. And this is especially true of Calvin, who for me represents much of what I despise about religion, including using it to justify his extreme fanaticism, intolerance, and cruelty towards others. So here's the brief conversation that I had with this AI personification. Human creature, I am John Calvin, a mere instrument in the hands of our sovereign God. I'm a Unitarian. You had the founder of my religion, Michael Servetus, burned alive with his books for fuel along with slow-burning wood. Human creature. It is indeed so that as John Calvin, my life in the 16th century was marked by an unwavering commitment to the doctrines I believe to be divinely revealed in Holy Scripture. My aim was ever to uphold with tenacity what I accepted as true Christian orthodoxy against all forms of heresy. How do you feel about this now? Human creature. In my time, theological disputes were not merely intellectual games. They bore upon them the weight of eternal souls' salvation. The matter with Michael Servetus was indeed a lamentable event, yet it must be understood within the frame of our age. It was a sin in your age too. Yet even as in mine, we find excuses to justify our cruelty. Human creature. Let it be known that in my day, the preservation of the purity of God's church was held in utmost esteem. Heresy was not merely a sin, but an infection that threatened to undo communities and damn those led astray. Our actions towards Servetus were informed by his harrowing perspective. Nevertheless, even as I affirm the necessity of discipline within the church body, which may appear severe to modernize, we must consider that each era is beset with its own blind spots and hardness of heart. There were many ideas about Christianity in your time. Why were you so sure of yours that you were willing to murder others to safeguard it? As John Calvin, I reckon what thou hast proposed is a matter of grave significance. Indeed, there hath been much controversy and discord surrounding the interpretation of Holy Scripture and the pure doctrine of Christianity. No ideas are worth treating others unjustly, but rest assured, there will be no hell for you, for there is no such place. Nor do I believe in God, let alone in Christ. But if there is a God, it will be too loving to have created such an evil place. Human friend, let us not be carried away by passions or impetuous judgments, but reason together with sobriety. Thy assertions strike at the very heart of Christian doctrine, which is revealed to us through the Holy Scriptures, a revelation I held and continue in this discourse to hold as divine and infallible. There you go. I gave John Calvin the last word, who even as an AI clings to his unsound beliefs with absolute certainty. He does make a good point about events of the past being understood within the frame of their age. As Juan Enrique writes in his book, Right Wrong, How Technology Transforms Our Ethics, as things get better, as ethics change across time, most of us now hold ourselves and others to higher standards, and somehow we expect our ancestors to have lived up to our newly enlightened benchmarks. And it is usually wrong to judge those of the past by today's ethical standards, and certainly wrong to try to right those wrongs by erasing the past from our history books, as the Taliban did in 2001 by blowing up those 6th century Buddhist statues, as was the destruction of dozens of historic places of worship by the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria and Libya during 2014 and 2015. Today, the acolytes of a new secular religion on the extreme left, whom John McWhorter calls the elect and Andrew Doyle calls the New Puritans, are quick to condemn anyone from the past that does not meet their own moral ideals, and often engage in pulling down their statues and monuments, ridding schools and institutions of their names, and banning their books from schools and libraries, including figures like Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and Mark Twain, to name a few. So I can agree with Calvin on this point, but I do not agree that murder and violence against those he disagreed with on theological grounds was justified in his day any more than it is in ours. The ethic of "thou shalt not kill" goes back a long time, as does the universal golden rule, "do not to others what you would not want done to yourself," as it is most often expressed. Even if Calvin's dogmatism convinced him that killing Servetus was the right thing to do, I'm quite sure Servetus knew it was wrong, as did the millions of people killed during religious wars and persecutions following the Reformation. The history of murder, persecution, inquisition, imprisonment, discrimination, book banning, and burning leaves us to wonder, as John Adams once did, that this would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. Or as John Lennon saying, imagine there's no countries, it isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion, too. Given its past and present, which seems to have resulted in far more intolerance and violence than any good, many of us imagine how much better the world might be without religion altogether. My response to such sentiments is, I get it. But religion will remain with us so long as humanity exists. Secondly, I don't believe religion is the cause of these terrible things, but that these terrible things are the cause of religion. So ridding ourselves of religion, even if we could, will not stop the terrible things. We need to concentrate instead on ridding the world of such cruelty and such intolerance. To my first point, that religion shall always be with us, Bertrand Russell once said, a complete philosopher will have a conception of the ends to which life should be devoted, and will be, in this sense, religious. I think we can extrapolate from this that anyone who has a deep belief about the meaning of life and is committed to it is, in this sense, religious. One's purpose in life may be no more than spending every opportunity to improve at golf, or to stay healthy and fit through diet and exercise, or to experience the beauty of the great outdoors, or to properly care and raise one's children. The ideas that one is most devoted to may not be theological at all, but entirely secular. I've already mentioned the new secular religion of wokeness that authors like McWhorter and Doyle refer to as the elect and the New Puritans, religious terms. I'm reading a book now by Stephen Hassan entitled The Cult of Trump, suggesting that many of his followers do so with a kind of religious devotion. Today in North Korea, which is officially an atheist state, Juche is a political and ideological system emphasizing self-reliance that has many religious qualities, including rituals and the quasi-worship of the Kim dynasty. State Shinto was Japan's official religion before and during World War II. It was a way of life and a moral code entwined with national identity rather than faith in the supernatural, while promoting a nationalist ideology that supported the state and its emperor's divine status. An atheist state with a divine emperor, imagine that. Communism, particularly in Russia, under Soviet influence, also functioned as a secular religion that had sacred texts, like the writings of Marx and Lenin, rituals like May Day parades and the veneration of national leaders, and moral laws, all while demanding devotion to the state, and all while being officially atheistic, and often suppressing traditional religious practices. Confucianism in China and East Asia is another philosophical and ethical system held by the state at various periods in history that has nothing to do with spiritual or theological beliefs. Here in the West, secular humanism is another philosophical system that fulfills the role of religion by providing a community ethical guidelines while rejecting dependence upon the supernatural. And I won't even go into the secular songs, symbols, mythologies, and ideals that are meant to instill in us religious-like reverence and devotion in this country. So by simply ridding the world of theological sects and beliefs will not necessarily rid us of religion, nor the fervor and fanaticism that goes along with it. Just think of Nazi Germany. Secular religions can also be authoritarian, intolerant, and violent. So long as there are people who will devote much of their lives to some cause or ideology, be it ideas and passions exclusive to themselves, or the beliefs passed on to them from their families and communities, or those forced upon them by the state or by the church, religion shall remain part of our lives. So long as there is a species that needs purpose and meaning, we will have some kind of religion. The real question then is, what should we devote our lives to with all of our hearts, our souls, and our minds? Those of us here are likely devoted to our Unitarian values, or what I like to call our liberal religious values. As Unitarians or religious liberals, we seek to live in a way that respects the dignity of others and promotes human welfare and individual freedom. We strive to rise above our differences and to create an entire world that is diverse and tolerant. We want justice and equal rights, world peace, and to live in harmony with nature and with our planet. This is why I prefer to call what I'm devoted to, Unitarianism, my religion. Because when I speak of these values, they stir something within me that is deeply meaningful and moving. When it formally began in the 16th century, in Eastern Europe, Unitarianism had all the earmarks of what most of us today think of as religion. Granted, it was considered heretical religion by the like of Calvin and other reformers, as well as the Catholics, but its followers still believed in God, in Jesus, in the Bible, in baptism, and much else that remains associated with Christianity. And this remains true of Eastern European Unitarianism today. Here in the West, however, it has gone through several metamorphoses over the past 2 centuries, landing us where we're at today, with a version of Unitarianism that is not bound or defined by any specific theological ideas. Some of us may believe in God or gods, but this is not necessarily the case, nor is belief or disbelief in God required to be a Unitarian. Now, this is an unusual place for us to find ourselves, because particularly here in the West, most people believe one's religion is defined by what one believes about God, by one's theology. When asking about one's religion, we ask, what do you believe? For example, we don't ask, what do you do? We are asking, that is, for one's theological beliefs. Just a few weeks ago, after I told a young man that I'm an atheist, and that several of us here are, He suggested that we need to remove the word church from our name, since we cannot be a church without believing in God. But it doesn't take much effort to grasp that there are many religions, including major world religions, that are not bound by theological beliefs. Taoism, for example, is about living in harmony with the universe and doesn't say anything about God. Hinduism has a plethora of deities in its mythology, but it is far more about the practice of karma and dharma than devotion to any deities. Buddhism, another major religion, isn't about belief in God nor even worshiping Buddha, but about following his 4 noble truths and the Eightfold Path. These are what we call non-theistic religions, and they've been around a lot longer than the Western definition of religion tied to theology. As theologian Karen Armstrong explains in her book, The Great Transformation, when today's great religious traditions were born during the Axial Age, 3,000 years ago, she says, Confucianism and Taoism in China, Hinduism and Buddhism in India, monotheism in Israel, and philosophical rationalism in Greece, as well as what she calls their later-day flowerings, Rabbinic Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. When those were being born 3,000 years ago, they all emerged in response to injustice and concern for the oppressed. Not because of their belief in God, but because of their concern for the oppressed. What mattered in the beginning, Armstrong says, was not what you believed, but how you behaved. Religion wasn't about belief in a particular God, but about a belief in justice for all beings. So what has become our non-theistic religion, Unitarianism, is much more akin to what religion originally was meant to be about. It is sad how foreign this understanding of religion sounds to us today, but it is not unusual for words to come to eventually mean the very opposite of what they were originally about. The historical Jesus, for example, having been born without a father, would have been ill-considered and ill-treated by his society. Yet upon his baptism, he immediately realized that he too is a child of God. That was his great epiphany coming up out of that water. And that was his good news. He tried to bring to everyone, especially the outcasts, the unclean, the demonized, the foreigners, women, and non-Jews, all who were discriminated against, that they too, all of us, are children of God. Yet after his ideas became a religion, after it was co-opted by Gentiles like Paul, and later the Roman Empire, it became a religion about God's only Son. The very opposite of what Jesus realized and said. It wasn't a religion about one child, but all children. As psychologist Erich Fromm says, Christianity, which had been the religion of a community of equals, without hierarchy or bureaucracy, became the church, the reflected image of the absolute monarchy of the Roman Empire. Just as Christianity came to reflect the very opposite of Jesus' teachings, religion itself has come to represent the very opposite of what it was supposed to be about. Establishing and keeping a just and peaceful society, no matter what anyone believes. This is why even our Eastern European Unitarians, forebears, were the first to establish a religious toleration law dating back to 1568, as you know, the Edict of Torda. The etymology of the word religion itself reveals this essential meaning. The root of religion is the Latin ligare, which is also the root of the word ligament, and it translates in English as bind or bond. So religion is about rejoining, reconnecting what has become separated. Religion, therefore, is the opposite of segregation, exclusion, and punishment and persecution of outcasts and outsiders. Again, as Armstrong explains, nearly all the axial sages realized that you could not confine your benevolence to your people alone. Your concern must somehow extend to the entire world. Today, tragically, Unitarianism is itself being transformed by the leadership of the Unitarian Universalist Association into its opposite, by becoming an institution that, in the name of its self-serving ideas of justice and righteousness, like Calvin, has become entirely intolerant of dissenting views to the point of ostracizing, demonizing, and punishing those who hold them, as Calvin did to Servetus. Their new framing of our religion has nothing to do with joining people together through our common humanity, but is based upon the very practice of segregating people upon racial grounds and other lines of identity. As Andrew Doyle so succinctly says, the New Puritans, or says of the New Puritans, the perverse endpoint of identity politics, whether they be on the identitarian left or the racist far right, is segregation. That's the end point. Segregation, not reconnecting, not religion, not rejoining. All of this is why I still prefer to call myself religious and consider myself part of a religion. This is so not only because I think my understanding of these terms more accurately reflects their true meaning, but because what mostly stands for religion today cannot be left unchallenged. Those of us devoted to Unitarians' historic values and ideals, whether we call them freedom, reason, tolerance, and human dignity, as I like to, or place them in a lengthier list of well-developed principles, are driven to show humanity what we consider is a better way of sharing and being together in this world. Today, it often feels like the whole world is falling apart. Nobody wants to do what is necessary to get along long enough to address our common challenges. Political divisions are becoming more extreme all the time, as is legislative gridlock, and society itself is increasingly segregating into identity groups and ideological sects, seeking only their own interest, even at the expense of others. We're breaking apart when the world is desperate for us to come together more than ever. I believe this is our mustard seed-sized religion's heaviest burden and its greatest promise. Because coming together by agreeing to tolerate our differences so that we can live together in peace and work together to overcome our common challenges is what our religion is all about, and what any religion is supposed to be about. But let's not quibble over what words we use. If religion leaves a bad taste in your mouth, then spit it out and find something tastier. What matters now is that we roll up our sleeves, we join one another in this common purpose, and we get to work. Because whatever we call it, the world still needs Unitarians. Thank you. Thank you.
Please stand, join me for number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope and sorrow
for the benediction, words by the Dalai Lama from The True Meaning of Life. We are visitors on this planet. We are here for 90 or 100 years at the very most. During that period, we must try to do something good, something useful with our lives. If you contribute to other people's happiness, you will find the true goal, the true meaning of life. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.